Hello and welcome to Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. I'm Becky Parker Geist and I'm your host. Audiobook Connection is your place to learn about the audiobook creative process and for authors to learn valuable tips on producing and marketing your audiobooks. This podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Would you leave $237,000 on the table? And what if it cost you even, let's say, $24,000 just to get that $237,000? Would you say no? Let's get into the details of what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Becky Parker Geist. I'm the CEO of Pro Audio Voices and AMPlify Audiobooks. And our topic today is distribution and marketing. So what brought this up and brought these numbers up was actually a conversation that I was having with an audio engineer. Now, this audio engineer works with many different clients, and his focus has always been on production. He had not really delved into the whole distribution part and was really leaving that part up to his author and publisher clients. And that's not unusual. He would offer some basic advice like, you could go through ACX and get it onto Audible. And as for getting it posted, available for sale anywhere else, well, that could potentially be a long and annoying process and maybe not worth the effort, but, up to you as the author or publisher, the rights holder. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this conversation that he and I had. Initially, we met because we at Pro Audio Voices had a client who wanted to narrate his own project, and he lived in the area where this audio engineer has a studio. We connected with him. It seemed like he was a good fit for what was needed. This is work that he was familiar with, had done plenty of. So he had not only developed the expertise to do this work, but he was also very experienced. So that's a great fit. As we were conversing at the end of a session that I was directing with this author client, the engineer mentioned the distribution piece, that he would just tell his clients to upload to ACX, basically. And I said, well, you and I should have a further conversation about that. And so we did. This is the conversation that inspired this particular episode of my podcast. In the course of our conversation, I learned that he probably has over 1,000 clients that he's worked with. But here's the piece that really jumped out at me. One of his clients has had some significant success and has sold over 30,000 copies of the audiobook. Pairing that with the information he mentioned to me about ACX, I wanted to point out to him what that author had potentially left on the table, not intentionally, certainly, but from not knowing the options around distribution and what the possibilities are in terms of the amount of royalty that can be available to authors when they're selling their audiobooks. Keep in mind that Audible pays generally the lowest royalty rate. I say generally because if you do choose the exclusive option, then you're going to be receiving a higher percentage of the net sale. So again, for anyone who's not familiar with those terms, the gross and net, the gross amount or gross revenue is the amount that the customer is paying, and the net is the amount that once you take all the expenses away, it's what's left over at the end of that. And that is the number, the amount that Audible is paying on. They're paying on once they take away everything that they consider their expenses in the process of their distribution of your audiobook, then whatever that amount is that's left over, they're going to pay either 40% if you go exclusive with them, or 25% of that net amount if you go non-exclusive. Now, the thing to keep in mind about that decision is if you say that you're going to go exclusive so that you can get those extra 15% of the net, there's two things I want you to know about that. The first is that you are then eliminating any potential sales from the many, many other audiobook channels where there are lots of other customers. And so you're really restricting your audiobook into just the Audible and iTunes stores. That's it, the end. When you go exclusive, you're cutting off, closing off all the other potentials. That includes channels like Spotify or library channels where you do still earn a royalty, but it's a different royalty structure. Other places like Barnes & Noble, Audiobooks.com, which is one of the other largest audiobook distributors. So all of those channels would just be, without your audiobook. And I have to say, as somebody that chose to move away from Audible as a subscriber years ago, because I felt like, partly because once I learned that they pay the lowest royalties, I couldn't be in alignment with that. I felt like, I don't want to do that to authors. I want them to earn more from the money that I'm going to pay anyway. Well, actually, now I just get my audiobooks from AMPlify Audiobooks. But when I was a subscriber at audiobooks.com, there were several times when I wanted a particular audiobook, but it seemed to be only available on Audible. And I had chosen to move away from Audible. What was the end result? I didn't buy their audiobook. I know that I am not the only one in that category of people that will not just go to Audible because it's only available there. I'll just pick something else, especially when people are subscribers to a different platform like Libro.fm, for example, or audiobooks.com, and I could fill in the blank with any number of many, there's about 50 other channels that are available where audiobooks are sold and where people are actively buying their audiobooks. Okay, so that is the one piece, the first piece that you need to know about. And then the second is the fact that when you go exclusive with ACX, that the royalties that you're earning, that additional 15%, you have to have a really high number of sales before that 15% is really going to make it worth it to you to exclude all those other channels that frankly pay more royalties anyway, higher royalties. So that's something to really factor in. If you go with ACX exclusive, you cut yourself off from any other sales, and the difference, that 15% difference, is small. The other thing to remember as well is this whole thing about gross versus net. When you are going through ACX, you're getting paid on the net. And so I have found, for many years, I found that I had clients who were not understanding, how come I'm earning so little from it when it's selling for this amount? Why is that percentage so low? It's because of this net versus gross amount. Okay, now stepping back, let's just take a step back away from looking at ACX specifically and look at what are some of the other options out there. I mentioned a few, and there is an easy way to get a really broad distribution out into many, many channels. And this is the most important piece. There is a way for you to sell directly within the context of an audiobook store. There's a way for you to sell directly to earn much, much, much higher royalties and to have the tools that make it easier for you to market and send people to that platform. And that's AMPlify Audiobooks. So in this example that he gave me of the author who has sold over 30,000 copies of her audiobook, I did just a basic calculation, and that is looking at the difference between if an audiobook sold for $15 or $14.95, but we'll say $15, that's what I calculated it on, which is a standard price for many audiobooks on Audible and sort of a typical price for a credit when you're a subscriber. So I took what the author would earn from that on a non-exclusive basis, and then I compared it to what they would earn on AMPlify Audiobooks. And that's where that $237,000 came from. That's how much was left on the table, or not actually left on the table. That's probably not the best way to put it, because really, it wasn't left on the table. It was given to Amazon. It was given to Audible, which is part of Amazon. You know, we want to think about, well, who's getting the financial benefit of the sales of all this work that you have done? And wouldn't you rather have that money in your own bank account? I think you probably would. Let's take a short pause, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how an author might actually get to that place of earning or of selling 30,000 copies of their audiobook, and how that additional revenue from those sales could end up in your pocket from your audiobook. Let's take that short pause. Would you like to earn more from your audiobook sales? If you're an author with an audiobook, you may have noticed that royalties from Audible especially, and other platforms as well, are frankly kinda pathetically low, disappointingly low, and unfairly low considering what it cost you in effort and resources to create it. How is it the retailers are the ones making all the money off your work and investment? As someone who started in the audiobook industry in 1981, I've found it frustrating that authors keep getting shortchanged. The good news is that Pro Audio Voices just launched AMPlify Audiobooks, a direct sale audiobook platform for authors that puts you back in the driver's seat. Earn 65% of the gross sales price that you set. Compare that to the percentage of the percentage that retailers give. Run promotions on schedule whenever you want. Create coupon codes. Build community with your customers, since you'll know who they are and how to contact them. Work with a caring, responsive, supportive team to help you succeed all along the way. Get help with marketing. Get paid weekly. We're helping audiobook authors who are frustrated by painfully low royalties and the barriers that prevent them from managing their own products and customers. AMPlify Audiobooks is a direct sale platform that enables authors to earn much higher royalties and have way more control. We're disrupting the audiobook industry by putting authors first. Get started today at proaudiovoices.app or go to proaudiovoices.com and click on the Distribution Amplify link. Join the movement. Okay, so no one, I don't think, is going to be believing that there's some magical way to suddenly sell 30,000 copies of your audiobook. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? Yes, it would indeed. But the truth is that when people are selling that number of copies of their audiobook, they're actually doing some marketing that is making their followers and the public aware of their audiobook, aware of the opportunity to buy it. And how does that happen? That is all about marketing. And this is why in the beginning I asked that question about, well, what if it cost you $24,000 to earn that $237,000? Would you do it? I mean, who wouldn't? What if it cost you $36,000? $3,000 a month for a year. What if it cost that? What if it cost you $4,000 a month? When you start to look at the potential and then you look at the cost to get there, if you're looking at both of those numbers, it seems like absolutely an investment that's well spent, right? But of course, we don't have that absolute certainty as we step into marketing. And sometimes, not everyone would be able to reach that or not. But everybody has the potential to start that process and to start that growth. Here's what I often see happen, and what I find sad, frankly, is that many authors and rights holders will get their audiobook produced. Maybe they've already found AMPlify Audiobooks and their audiobook is on that platform. But if they don't ever do any marketing, if they're not out there letting their audience know, if they're not building that audience on a regular basis, every week, every month, then it's really unlikely that they're going to make many sales anywhere. That's just the truth of it. And it's not a sad fact, really, because why do we write books in the first place? Don't we want to communicate and share what we have to share, whether it's a story or whether it's fiction or whether it's nonfiction information? Isn't the point to be able to share and communicate that content with more and more people? From my experience in talking with a lot of authors over the years, I feel confident that the answer is yes, that is what we want to do. And the best marketing is actually doing that. It's that kind of sharing, and it's that kind of communicating. It's not all one direction. It's a two-way street. It's a true communication, a dialogue with other people. Many times in today's world, that dialogue comes in the form of or on the platforms of social media. But rather than thinking of it as, it's a billboard, I need to stick things up on the billboard, that's not it at all. It really is supposed to be social. And when it works well, we are being social on those platforms. Now, that may be something that you're not yet familiar with, or maybe just trying to figure out. Maybe you're just not that good at it yet, or you're uncomfortable with it, or you tend to think of social media as this icky thing. All of these things come up for people. But when we focus in on the fact that these platforms really can be a way for us to build a community, to have conversations that matter to us and that matter to others, that's when their power becomes strong. That's when they become valuable to everyone involved. And that is what I'm encouraging in terms of your marketing. Now, here's the other thing about marketing. I was talking about, what if it cost you some things to, some money in order to generate those sales? And it typically does, because most often we as humans, but also especially as writers, we are busy with writing. We may be also, doing other types of marketing, whether it's arranging book tours or writing a blog or any number of other things that are all valuable, right? They're all valuable in that big picture, in that building of your community. And I'm not discounting any of that. What I am saying is that just like having a community of followers and, of audiobook listeners and readers, just like building that community, it is incredibly valuable to build a team, a community of support around your marketing. Because we each have different strengths and we have different things that we enjoy doing and aspects that maybe we don't so much enjoy doing. I, for example, I enjoy making the content, but I'm less excited about actually getting onto the social media platforms and posting the content myself. I enjoy going on and commenting and engaging with people in that method, of communication, but less interested in really trying to understand the right hashtags and things like that. So I have a team that works with me that helps me in that overall process. And so what I am wanting to let you know as an audiobook author, I'm assuming that's what you're here for and why you're listening, that as an audiobook author, you have the opportunity to have a team support you in the process and help you build your audience so that you too can reap not only the community rewards, that feeling of well-being as a human, connecting with other humans, but also the financial rewards that can come with that. I want you to be able to reap the rewards that come from doing marketing around your own book and audiobook. And we at Pro Audio Voices love supporting authors and rights holders with the support team to be able to handle the pieces that you do not want to do yourself. We're also really great at strategizing for you and your particular audience and the different aspects, opportunities in marketing that feel like the best fit for you and your audience. And so that is also available to you. And I just want to say also, since I started off with a conversation with an audio engineer, I just want to let others know that maybe in our industry already, whether you're a narrator or an audio engineer or in some other aspect of the audiobook production industry, that there are also opportunities for you to benefit yourself and your own business by helping other authors, by helping authors and rights holders to generate more income using AMPlify Audiobooks. So here's my call to action for you. If you are a narrator, audio engineer, someone in the industry working with authors, please reach out to us at proaudiovoices.com. You can go to the contact tab or just hit the get started, schedule a discovery call and learn more about how you can be helping your clients. And for authors and rights holders, do the same thing. Schedule a discovery call with someone on our team so that we can help you see what the possibilities are for you and your projects. Let's together bring you more abundance and prosperity, because when authors are thriving, they can develop more stories, more information, more content for all of us. And together as a whole, we are helping make the world a better place to grow and to learn and to enjoy the worlds that we create through fiction as well. I hope that this has been helpful to you. Please, again, reach out to us at proaudiovoices.com. Schedule a discovery call. Let's talk about your particular needs and how we might be able to help you in reaching your goals with your projects. Thanks so much for joining me today. Thanks for joining us for Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. Please take a moment to subscribe at audiobookconnection.com. The podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Learn more at proaudiovoices.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and please join us next week.